Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Antigua starts the bickering over LIAT or WIAT and where it should be headquartered. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Wednesday, 20th September 2023, brought to you in association with our friends at Antillian Group. Details when we return.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. The government of Antigua and Barbuda is resolute about the base for air transport services in the sub-region. The latest pronouncements from St. John's come in the wake of increasing turbulence about which OECS capital should be the headquarters of the regional airline. Garfield Burford of ABS News reports.
If it's going to be a fight, I don't think that the Antigua and Barbuda government under the Honorable Gaston Brown is going to shy away from it. We want to keep aviation services as a contribution which Antigua and Barbuda makes to the rest of the Caribbean.
Resolute words from the administration amidst increasing rhetoric about regional transportation. Chief of Staff in the Prime Minister's office, Ambassador Lionel Hurst, making it clear LIAT 2020 is crucial to the government's plans for a revitalization of air transportation in the region. Now, while there have been voices of support for LIAT from other regional prime ministers, they are yet to put their money where their mouths are. There is even talk of a possible rival carrier to LIAT.
Along comes the CDB and Barbados and St. Vincent, and they have proposed the creation of a WIAT. No, they say it's West Indies Air Transport, but we think it's really Windward Islands Air Transport, and that they're seeking to cut out Antigua. For example, in their planned schedule, and there were only 2 flights coming into Antigua. Both came from Dominica.
Ambassador Hurst is forthright. Such a move is both counterintuitive and counterproductive.
They're going to cut us out completely. It couldn't be a regional carrier that would behave in that way, knowing that the vast majority of passengers going to other Caribbean countries find themselves first in Antigua, whether they're coming from the United States. That is, given the behaviors of many of the bigger airlines most recently.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has even proposed his country as a base for a new regional carrier. Prime Minister Honorable Gaston Brown's response was clear as he spoke with senior journalists at his office earlier this month.
I don't know that St. Vincent could make any real plausible case to move the headquarters of whatever regional airline to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I have no difficulty with his ambition, but in reality, if we're going to deal with equity and the fact that, the gains of the economic union should be shared equitably, I just feel that that was perhaps maybe a very unfortunate statement and what I consider to be preemptive, premature, considering that no such decision has been taken to date.
The government of Antigua and Barbuda is forging ahead with Nigeria's largest carrier, Air Peace, as the majority shareholder in LIAT 2020, with the launch of the airline set for later this year.
Taiwan distances itself from suggestions of wrongdoing in the St. Jude Hospital loan matter in St. Lucia. Zane Romulus of the DBS News World reports.
The process by which a loan was given by Taiwan to St. Lucia was transparent and executed in accordance with a contract signed between the two sides, Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on Saturday. The response came after Prime Minister Philippe Pierre on Friday announced a probe into how the funds were channeled to the Panamanian bank account of Overseas Engineering and Construction Corp., or the OECC. Taiwan's Foreign Ministry spokesman Jeff Lu told Taiwan Central News Agency on Saturday that based on the contract terms, the money could be remitted to OECC's account in Taipei after the St. Lucian government approved the hospital renovation. He also told the news agency that the OACC was willing to provide all remittance details for review by the St. Lucian government. Pierre said the money should have been deposited into the Consolidated Fund as is legally mandated by the Finance Administration Act of St. Lucia. He explained that diverting monies raised for the government to privately held accounts significantly limits the government's ability to adequately account for its usage.
What the government has issue with is the way the government of St. Lucia handled these affairs, which puts undue pressure on other people because of their actions. When these transactions are done, there is need for a clear path. So, the payments come directly from the contractor to the subcontractor. So OECC, they've not done one spade of work on St. Jude. Subcontractors have done that. So for to give the impression that the work is done by OECC is not true. It was done by a subcontractor. Very important.
According to Taiwan's foreign ministry, Pierre has spoken to the Taiwanese embassy in St. Lucia about the matter. The Taiwanese foreign ministry spokesman stated that Prime Minister Pierre highlighted that the government's action is intended to enhance accountability and financial management. In his statement on Friday, Prime Minister Pierre said that the loan's handling was improper and someone must be held accountable. However, the Taiwanese official clarified that Pierre conveyed that the investigation does not suggest any concerns regarding the loan or the OECC.
I want to make it clear. We have no issue with the government of Taiwan. No, we have issue with the firm involved. We have absolutely no issue. The government has no issue with them.
St. Lucia's United Workers' Party has defended the actions of the former Alan Chastney administration, claiming it did nothing wrong and has warned about the implications of the accusations for St. Lucia.
The man you have stood on television with so many times, handing checks over to St. Lucia. Every time we are in a crisis, you run to the Taiwanese. Today, you want people to speculate about the Taiwanese government and how they handle their funds. What a shame. What a travesty. That is a political disaster of international proportions.
The UWP has accused the ruling Labour Party government of creating a distraction from its borrowing of $1 billion in 2 years and a disastrous decision to borrow $200 million to rehabilitate the St. Jude Hospital. For the DBS News World, I am Zaid Romulus.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
The UN General Assembly President Dennis Francis has called on world leaders to recommit to the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. TTT News has more.
UN General Assembly President Dennis Francis has called on world leaders to recommit to the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Mr. Francis is presiding over the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, which opened on Monday in New York. This year's theme is Accelerating Action on the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals towards peace, prosperity, progress, and the sustainability for all. The President General of the Assembly noted a combination of factors, including the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and Ukraine conflict, have presented a series of complex and intersecting crises.
Alarmingly, 1.2 billion people were still living in multidimensional poverty as of 2022. It is estimated that approximately 8% of global population, or 680 million people, will still be facing hunger in 2030.
Trinidad and Tobago is represented at the 78th UNGA by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Dr. Amory Brown, and Minister of Planning and Development Penelope Beckles-Robinson. Minister Beckles-Robinson, in her brief statement, at the SDGs are even more crucial now as the 2030 agenda remains the global blueprint to ensure that no one is left behind.
In other news, the election petition filed against the Elections and Boundaries Commission, EBC, in Trinidad and Tobago, relating to the electoral district of Arima Northeast has been dismissed. Again, TTT News provides more details.
Mr. Justice Frank C. Prasad on Monday dismissed the matter filed against the EBC by the United National Congress. Justice C. Prasad also ordered the petitioner to pay the costs of the EBC certified fit for senior and junior counsel. Mr. Justice C. Prasad, in delivering his judgment, found that the petition filed by the United National Congress's candidate for the electoral district of Arima Northeast, Jairzinho Domingo Bustav Rigsby, was hopelessly flawed in that he failed to comply with mandatory provisions of the Representation of the People Act relating to election petitions. On election night, a tally of the votes saw the UNC and the People's National Movement receiving 623 votes each. On August 15th, after a recount, the UNC received one more vote. The EBC then accepted a request from the PNM for a check of that recount. The result of the second recount gave the PNM 625 votes and the UNC 624.
Anthony Smith of ZNS News tells us how the ruling PLP celebrated its second anniversary in office.
What you'll see is building on successes of the last 2 years.
2 years into office, and the Davis Cooper-led administration is not resting on their laurels.
Still a lot to do, and we are working on getting those things done.
That commitment by Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Davis on Saturday at the first of a few celebratory events to mark the Progressive Liberal Party's 2-year victory. Those 2 years seeing to a rise in minimum wage, an increase in affordable housing, and a drop in value-added tax, among other achievements.
If you think back about 2 years ago, where we were, in the multiple crises we've had, bad policies that have been inflicted upon the Bahamian people, and we had to correct all of that. The country, I think, is now going in the right direction. We did a lot of things. I'm proud of the accomplishments that my team and I have accomplished over the last 2 years.
Now the government has managed to pass some 100 pieces of legislation, completing what they have touted as the first half of their legislative agenda. And when the government heads back to Parliament after its prorogation ends on October 4th, it does so with a brand new cabinet and brand new plans. And more than that, officials say they're looking to continue building with the Bahamian people.
We are very excited about the possibilities for us to impact our country and to impact change. Most importantly, we are humbled by the opportunity given to us by the people of the Bahamas. We promised them that we would work for them. We promised them that we would deliver on our blueprint for change, and we promised them that we won't let them down.
A Thanksgiving church service is scheduled to take place on Sunday at Mount Tabor to mark the occasion. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Antoine Smith.
On Saturday, 16 September, citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis commemorated National Heroes Day with a wreath-laying ceremony at the National Heroes Park at Needs Must. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline has more.
Wreaths will be laid in honor of the late Right Excellent Sir Robert L. Bradshaw, the first national hero and a Premier of the state of St. Kitts, Nevis and Anguilla. For C.A. Paul Southwell, who was instrumental in spearheading light industry and tourism on St. Kitts. In recognition of Joseph N. France, who was an outstanding trade unionist. For Simeon Daniel Nevis, Nevis's first premier and a co-signatory towards the independence of St. Kitts and Nevis. Also to be present at the ceremony is the nation's only living national hero, the Right Excellent Right Honorable Dr. Sir Kennedy Simmons, who became the first Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Meanwhile, decorations around Bastille are at a high as the country commemorates its 40th anniversary of independence attained in 1983. This year, the Independence Day ceremony will begin at midnight and will have a special feature, an artistic showcase of light involving drones. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.